Hello there, welcome to my review for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love Tarantino movies. I didn't get a chance to see this one in cinemas, that's why this review is as late as it is. But I did end up checking it out, eventually. So let's talk about this movie, because I love Tarantino films. All of them I think are fantastic. Um, I really adore Tarantino's films. I think they're really, really good. These glasses keep falling off. Alright, let's talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and it's a nice look at 1960s Hollywood cinema, which, if you've seen all Tarantino's films, that's where he gets all of his inspiration, I feel. I'm going to take these off. Okay. That's where Tarantino gets all of his inspiration. And in his movies. And I love that he's now made a movie showing us what has inspired him to make all these other films. And I think that's a really clever idea. And I loved this film, again, like all of Tarantino's films. Is it another Tarantino classic? No. Is it another movie that I'm going to rewatch over and over again? No. It was a really good look at this era of this golden age of cinema and showing through an actor's and a stuntman's life through that, and I thought that was really great. And let's talk about the performances here. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, phenomenal in the movie. Brad Pitt is such a cool guy in this movie. He has a good run this year, man, yeah, he's amazing. I love this guy. There's some scenes with him I want to talk about when I get into spoilers later on in this video. And Leonardo DiCaprio is phenomenal. I mean, he is fantastic. He also has one of my favorite scenes in the movie where he's just lashing out, being so angry at himself, and he's so hilarious. And, and he's being a really good actor because he's acting really well. And we see his reaction to that while he's acting in the movie. And that's what I loved about this film. This movie definitely has a solid three-act structure. The first act and the second act and third act are really different. The third act is, I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'm going to leave that for now. But the first act and the second act is sort of like a hangout movie. It's sort of just like having a look at 1960s Hollywood and having a look at the films, like the westerns and it's a really, really good look at that. And I really like that. We get to see Bruce Lee and stuff. We get a lot of actors that pop up. And the thing I really loved about this film was those two performances and the Tarantino style, which I love. And I think this is his best use of the style. My only one issue I'm going to speak about this movie before I do get into my spoilers is that when this movie does try and tell a compelling story, it definitely has links to the Manson family story. And I'm really glad they didn't go into it, because when this movie tried to tell a story, I honestly didn't care about it. And it spends a lot of time with Sharon Tate as a character, and I never really felt those scenes were necessary. And I love how Tarantino just puts things in that make no sense. He puts things in that don't mean anything to the story, these really elongated sequences that don't need to be there, just to fill up the runtime, make it feel long, make you feel immersed. But here I don't think adding an extra storyline in that doesn't really connect to anything else didn't really work for me. When you see when you see the end, it sort of connects up, and you're like, oh, okay, I understand why there's so many scenes with her in the film, and all the performances are fantastic in the movie. Not a weak link there, but I didn't feel that it was necessary to put that storyline in the film, because I just love seeing Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt hang out as buddies, driving around in a car, listening to 60s soundtrack. And the 60s soundtrack in the film, a thing I love about Tarantino songs that he puts in his movies is that he uses the songs from that era to act as the musical score in a way. They're just in the background. They're just adding to the setting. They're not taking over the scenes. And because this is shown in Pulp Fiction and all the other Tarantino movies, it doesn't have original scores. It just uses songs, and here he does it really, really well to make it feel like it's the musical score. And that's what I love about Tarantino movies. They're just completely different to everything else that comes out. Every single time there's a Tarantino movie, it's completely new and completely different to everything else coming out today. And even though this movie didn't feel like it was made in the 1960s, it definitely feels like it was made today. It's just a great look at that era, the things that inspired the films that we get now. And I love that. I love that. But I need to get into spoilers, because there's things I just want to talk about. So, spoiler warning now. Let's talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. One scene towards the end, full of bloodshed. Brad Pitt is high. Leonardo DiCaprio whips out his flamethrower. Awesome scene. really awesome. I expected a little bit more because I already heard that the last 15 minutes were insane. So I was expecting a little bit more, saying what we got in other Tarantino films. But yeah, I still really liked that, and it didn't go too over the top. It wasn't too overlong. It felt right. It felt right for the story. It felt like a good ending, and again, the style is something really, really well done. There was a narration that came in at the third act. Kurt Russell narrates in the third act, and that felt out of left field for me. I don't know, it just didn't work for the story because there wasn't a narration for the entire thing and then just adding that in. He's done it because he has done that previously in other films and worked really well. But here it didn't work because I didn't feel like there needed to be a narration in this part of the story. I feel like you could already tell what was going on by the visuals. And the movie looks fantastic. My favourite scenes in this movie, my favourite act is the second act, which the majority of people say is boring and don't like the second act. The first act is setting up these guys and setting up what they do and setting up what point of their lives they are. Like, we get that montage of Leonardo DiCaprio speaking to Al Pacino about all the other movies. We get all the little clips. The opening scene clip and the ending credit scene are hilarious. I love how they use the Batman music from the 60s. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and the comedy is really well earned. My favourite scene in the film is where Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are watching television, and they're just pointing out all the funny things they're watching. Phenomenal scene, and as I said earlier, the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio is just lashing out. But my favourite moments in the film are in the second act, where Brad Pitt's on a little side mission with all the hippies, which leads into what happens at the end, and where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is in the Western. The little girl does a fantastic job in the movie. She's really, really great. And I love him working on that film. And the thing is, I was actually starting to get invested in the film he was acting in. And then when he buggered up his line, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I was actually watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I felt like I was watching this film that Rick Dalton was in. And then I was like, oh wait, I'm actually watching a movie myself. And it was like 2 layers of immersivity. It was really weird. And when he kept buggering up his lines, they kept going back. Fantastic. The camera movements, the production design, everything about this film done really well. It really does look like the 60s. It really does. And I would say the majority of this movie is Brad Pitt driving around in a car, listening to music. And you know what? Sometimes that's all you need in a film. Sometimes that will satisfy you. And you know what? They were my favourite scenes. Just Brad Pitt driving around in a car, doing nothing. And you know what? That is sometimes all you need in a goddamn film. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really satisfied me. I thought it was really good. In terms of the 3-act structure, I don't think it worked as well here than other Tarantino films. It's definitely not one of his best work, but it's a great look at the movies that inspired him to make the movies he made. And it's a great look as the audience to look back on this golden age of Hollywood. And we get also a few really epic performances, really, really good performances from Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, who make them excellent characters. A lot of great cameos in there. Fantastic dialogue as usual. I would have liked a little more, maybe. Just add a few little bits in there, just to fill in the gaps of some of the story. And I said a few little issues over there. But besides that, this is a really great movie. And it's great to see movies like this today. It's great to see movies that look back on that era of film, and I will always appreciate filmmakers that do that, and Tarantino is one of those directors where he really has never had a weak step. Every single one of his movies is great, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is another great one, and even though it's not one of his best ones, it's not going to be a classic, it's a great little immersive film that I enjoyed watching, with 2 phenomenal performances, really good direction of course, and Tarantino's style is still there. I'm going to give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood an A. I'm also going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. Really like this one, guys. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. And of course, thanks for watching, and goodbye.